Hey, what's up? This is Michael, formerly San Diego Skateboard Longboard Race Club. Taking a time out from how the club was originally set up and going in a different direction for skate cross, which is basically skaters racing on a converted BMX course. Anyway, more information on that to come later. I have a lot of details to work out before I share any more on that. Want to start off by saying big thanks to all the subscribers, all the comments. Really appreciate the acknowledgement and the compliments, etc. It's sort of humbling because I originally just started out to build a portfolio. A little, I guess about a year ago, I was going to start an outreach for disadvantaged kids or delinquent kids. Also, that includes foster kids. And I had really gotten proficient enough at LDP, long distance pushing, and free riding, which is for me kind of sliding, stand-up sliding on most hills. I don't do Coleman slides and things like that. My friends do, but my knees are a little bit shot. Anyway, so going from there, it was kind of a change as I felt drawn into a skate park, and so I believe God wanted me to get that dialed in before I started the ministry. So I've been skating park all this year, getting a little bit better every session at a time. So anyway, that was really the spark of why these videos started to evolve. But today's video isn't going to be about preaching Jesus. It's really to just encourage others to enjoy longboarding. I mean, it's just it's an awesome sport, and I had a kind of an aha moment. That was, where is that? You can call it an epiphany of sorts, a moment of clarity. I've been this is my board for skate park. It's a Bustin' Yo face. Got some nice wheel wells on there, which allows the wheels to come up higher on the deck. And for me, I like to be as low to the ground as I can. And I've been skating this deck, tried a few other ones, Nelson Longboard, some other popsicles, different widths, different wheelbases. Just for those who might be interested a little bit in skate park, the wheelbase on this is 16.50. That's from the inside truck measurement. And that's pretty much an industry standard. The width of this board is 9.25, and I would guess the length of this board is like 33 inches, but maybe even 34. I can pull a quick tape on that. I haven't checked that out in a while. Whoa, 34.5. But the most important factor for skate park is your wheelbase, which again is from the inside truck bolts, 16.50. Okay, so moving on to the wheels, which most of this video will be about. I took a couple of hard hits this year. One for some glass I didn't see. Also a little pebble in a pool stuck me. I run into bolts, nuts every once in a while that have fallen off trucks. And they put me into a skid, or a little, berry from a tree will do the same thing. And I was just getting tired of feeling like I was going to get pitched off. So I did a little research, and I found these Bones wheels. These are Rough Riders. They're 56 millimeters, but they have a nice contact patch. I would say about 45 millimeters, and with an 80 durometer. Now I'll get into explaining the different categories of what I just mentioned. But I figured after trying these wheels, it just changed my whole game up. And that was sort of like, the inspiration to take the extra time to make this video about wheels. I had been riding some Bones Pal Peraltas, and I've tried numerous other wheels like Ricta and Rain Skates. Here's still a package of Spitfires I didn't pull out. I've tried Spitfires, and some of these wheels are great. You know, but they would only fit on certain boards or with certain trucks, and I'll break that down a little bit more in a second. But the main issue for me was the durometer, because when I would hit pebbles or I would hit any foreign substance, you know, it'd want to spit me off. And I spent enough time this year healing from bruised ribs and you know, ripped off toenails, etc., etc., that I really just I'm a skate park surfer. You know, I don't do all the tricks. Props to all the youngsters and, you know, the old school and even people still learning. But for me, I like to stay on the ground and just kind of rip through all aspects of the park, making different lines. So I wanted a wheel that would motor. Well, anyway, this wheel is awesome because I've already rolled over quite a few little pebbles with no bad effects from that. And also the wider contact patch makes me feel better going down the transitions. That's the surface area that's on the road. I should probably mention too that on my setup I have polar bear trucks, which uses a longboard bushing other than other skate park trucks. And I do need to update this with some Riptide bushing soon. I run Riptide on all my longboards. Just awesome bushings, but I need to put in an order so I can get a nice selection to dial these trucks in. But anyway, and the polar bear trucks from Bear, they are actually pretty low as far as where it sits the deck. And then with the busting board with the wheel wells, these flared wheel wells, it's just a good combination. So these wheels are an 80A. The wheels I was using before, these Bones wheels, Pal Peralta has Bones make their wheels for them. These are a 90A, and a lot of the Spitfires and other multiple Bones that I've tried are in the 101 durometer range. They have a different formula, how they calculate things for skate park wheels, skateboard wheels, but the bottom line is it's a lot harder, and the harder the wheel is, the you know, the less give it'll give when it runs into foreign obstacles. So let's start off with just the basics of, you know, what this video is going to be mainly about, which is wheels. And so I made a little checklist here, and the first thing I think you need to know is like what fits on your deck. You know, because there's a lot of wheels that are nice, but they're not going to work for your particular setup. And sometimes you could be holding back your progression because you're running the wrong deck. And I can make a whole video about that, but if you're standing too tall, that might be difficult for you to ride. Or if you don't have enough clearance so that you can run whatever specific wheel that you would desire, that can be a problem. So just keep that in mind. I'm not going to really elaborate on that. But the first thing I would suggest is you need to measure your wheels. I just can put the wheels in here and then measure how many millimeters it is. You can use a tape measure as well. And I always measure the width, which is again the contact patch of the part of the wheel that actually hits the surface of the road or whatever you're rolling, skate park, concrete, whatever. So after you kind of have a parameter on what wheel you want, then of course you have to think about what discipline are you doing. And I mean, well, I put my luge behind me. I haven't finished building it. I have some wheels that I kind of set up. These are some Avic 11 Big Zigs I have some Mach 1 cannonballs from Venom. We have some Centrax. So for my luge, I want a wide wheel that has grip. I'm not into really sliding the luge, and I like a wide contact patch. Now I'm going to try to, first off, in talking about wheels, kind of break it down really on sizes. On the luge, I can go as high as 83. I'm waiting for ABIC 11 to come out with this HD Formula 83 Centrax, but I haven't seen them available yet. They've made a new hub. I've seen them in 75 millimeter. Anyway, let me not get, I'm not really saying this is technical, but let me get away from those basics. So there's wheels that I want specifically for my luge. There's wheels I would want specifically for my Longboard LDP race board. I've got a lanyard switch here in the corner. It's got some Arsenal trucks on it with some 85 millimeters. Generally a good size wheel for distance is 76. In the back, in the very back against the backsplash of my kitchen, I have a lot of metal mother wheels. These are 76.
Offset. All the metal mother wheels are offset, whether they're 76 or 70.
Pumping,
and to the right of some 76 metal mother, I have some made by the same company, Dregs, some side set, which are the Cougars.
Anyway, I have side set wheels. These are also
Alright, I have to do a voiceover on a little blooper. What I meant to say was Cougars. They're Dregs Cougars.
In the back, some 81s. So 76 is a great size wheel, and I say that because when you get to a downhill section and your board's set up right, you can still control the wheels really good. When you get into the bigger wheels, like say a 90 or a 97, like these are ABIC 11 flywheels, these are 107s, these are 80, these are the Kegels from Orangutan, these are the 85s again that I just showed you that are on my race board from Seismic. Those wheels are generally best, I believe, for either luge or distance, long distance pushing. LDP is the abbreviation, so if I just throw out LDP to this video, you know what I'm talking about. And then for downhill, which is, in my opinion, a lot of downhillers, mind you, do free ride, and they can ride any type of wheel for the most part. But I don't. 74, I would say, is the max. Some I've seen awesome footage of these running 80 millimeter Orangutan, but since this video is really based on just the startup skater, I'm not sitting here saying I'm the guru of skateboarding and I know what you should do or anything like that. This is just my suggestion or I'm sharing what I've progressed with. And in my opinion, the bigger wheels are for luge and flat ground skating when you want to do some long distance skating and you want to also incorporate some hills to where you're doing some brake checks, some light sliding. You know, I would recommend not going above 76 millimeter. I think the norm is, you know, you're fine with 74. And just to give you an idea, I run all over town. Like, I'll kick out of my front door, I'll kick and push 10 miles, 12 miles, no problem, on 70 millimeter wheels. Whoa. And what you see is metal mother out in the front. I'll talk about durometer in a minute, but those are 70 millimeter with a 78.8 durometer. And the reason being is because there's a lot of hills on when I do LDP, and so I want to enjoy being able to slide around. Now when I know I'm going to actually do more flat ground, I'll go as high as a 76. So this would, pretty sure, oh, yep, 76. And you can see the difference here. It's not tremendous. But sliding for me, I like control 70. If I'm going to do just downhill, free ride, which is under 30 miles an hour, a 70 millimeter is my go-to wheel of choice. I've tried multiple different sizes, and I'll go as high as 72 for free riding. But basically, when I get into the 76 range, it's because I'm gonna do a lot more flat, because I'll incorporate more pump, which is when you keep your feet on the board and you just kind of put motion into the deck from your body so that you don't kick and push as much. And 76 or bigger works. But again, I'll just repeat myself, I like the 76 because when I get into hilly section, it's not so big that I can't do brake checks in a nice control. So just to recap a little bit, the bigger wheels, 76 and above, would be for like luge or for long distance pushing. Downhill when you're hauling, I've seen them use 80s, but the norm is more like a 72 or a 74. This wheel right here, and just so I don't, these are 76 as well, and they were used at Catalina, but at the last event in 2017, the event winner was on these Venom Cannonballs, so there are many downhillers that use, or a few downhillers that use 76, but this is more of a grip wheel. I'll get into that later because we have to talk about durometers. And I'm trying not to put out so much information that is confusing, kind of a guideline that I'm trying to show. If you're a beginner, I would suggest using a 60 or a 65 millimeter wheel. One of my favorite wheels to learn on was the Palisade sliders. This is a 65 millimeter wheel. This has a narrow contact patch, which I'll talk about briefly in a little bit as well. But the smaller wheels allow you to break into a slide or a brake check at slower speeds, and that's always helpful when you're learning. Okay, let me try to move on. Okay, now the next important thing I need to share is the wheel durometer. So this section is wheel durometer. That's the hardness of the wheel. And it wouldn't be right if I didn't say a little bit about the rebound. You're going to see that in a lot of internet talk. And the rebound is how quick the wheel returns back, I'd say, like to center. A fast rebound is a smoother wheel on the road. So a durometer of like 76 has a lot of grip because it's absorbing the road. And a harder wheel like 80, 82, 84, 86, the higher up you go, the more it's skipping the road, so it can be rougher. Now mind you, like skate park wheels run on a very smooth surface and they want to carry a lot of speed, so a hard wheel is fine because there's not a lot of resistance. And again, on the board I was showing you at the skate park with these Bones Rough Riders, this was an 80A wheel. And its main purpose is going to be at the skate park. But I think one of the biggest discredits that I read when I was learning was the fact that everyone would say, oh, get the 80s. You need to get at least 80A durometer. And that didn't work for me because, as a guideline, most wheels at 80, 82, there's always exceptions, mind you. But as a general guideline, the harder wheels, when you break into a slide or a brake check, are less controllable. The 78A, which is my favorite wheel on the Metal Mother 70 millimeters for when I just do specifically downhill sliding. Now I don't think I've shown you that board, and that would be right here. When I do just hills, I'll use a top mount deck, and the wheels are 70 millimeter but with a 78 a durometer. And that's because when I slide, I like to be in control, and a lot of 78mm wheels still slide fairly well, but they give you resistance so that in the slide you have more control. You've heard the term icy. The best example I can give you of icy are these Remember wheels. There's a lot of skaters that really like these wheels, and really they rock them awesome. But for me, there's not enough resistance, and I'm totally out of control. But for me, there still is a purpose on these. If you skate a hill that doesn't have a lot of angle or pitch, slope, and you're trying to break out the slides, getting a wheel that is very icy will still work. Now, I'm not sure what the durometer on these are. It's kind of hard to read. See, even though they're a 78, these are a 78, these are so icy, so that, like I said, there's always exceptions to the rule. So we've talked a little bit about durometer. You know, the 76A durometer is a grippy wheel. People that also do downhill, they like grip, but at the same time, they can get more grip by running a wider wheel, so that they can, with little effort, they can still push their wheels out to slide. So I'll get into wheel width here in a second. But as a general rule, again, I would stick to, if I was doing distance and the roads were really rough, I might run some 76A wheels in the front, and then in the back I might run some 78s. A little bit higher durometer, because I don't need the back to be smoothed out as much as the front. Or I would just run all 78As. And then, you know, if you want to, the one advantage of running the harder duros is that those wheels last generally a little bit longer. It's a harder urethane. The rebound's a little bit slower. It takes more for the wheel to wear out. So the green wheels are Metal Mother. Those are 78A, but the black ones are only an 80A right there, and they're all, I don't like them. I can't control them anywhere near as well as I can the 78A. So I hope that's clear enough. There's some
more
Metal
the green
Mothers,
and the black ones
here,
are Metal Mother, but right next to that, the gray, and the other black ones
hubs
are not.
Anyway, I won't talk about the hubs right now. So as I mentioned, hubs, let me move on to the next thing, which is your wheel going to be, hub is going to be center set for the bearings, offset, or is it going to be side set? Now, an example of center set wheels would be like, that's when the bearings are, the bearings put the wheel in the center. When it's an offset wheel, like everything on here, from the Sector 9s to the Metal Mothers, from the Palisades to the Aerials, I got numerous brands here. Offset is that the bearing is closer to the center of the skateboard, so it's off center. It's not in the center, not going to the outside, but going to the inside. But I will warn you, with an offset wheel like Metal Mother, when you flip the wheel, it'll bring the wheel in closer, so you have more chance of wheel bite. So make sure if you're getting an offset wheel that you're not going to get wheel bite. A side set wheel would be all of these Cougars that are Dregs wheels as well. You can see it, there's a flush. It's flush here. The bearing, if the skateboard is, the middle of the skateboard is here, the bearing is, one of the bearings is right on the side here. So it pushes the wheels out a little further. Of course, if you're a free rider or a downhiller and you slide a lot, you're going to cone your wheels. And then when you flip them, you're really going to get wheel bite, because it's going to bring the wheel really farther in. So again, that's something to consider if you're going to do. I generally only use side set wheels on my distance boards. When I have certain trucks that I use that are narrow and I want to put a wider, I want to pull the wheels a little farther wider from the deck, like my Bennett Vectors and my Randall trucks for my pump boards, where I actually put a lot of energy in the deck without putting my foot down to propel the board. That's what I think side sets are best for. The offsets, just for a reference, if you can flip the wheel and it still fits, when you get the wheels out a little further, it's a little easier to break the wheel into a slide. A lot of people prefer center set because no matter how they spin the wheel, it's got the same clearance on the deck when it's pivoting, so that as you begin to cone your wheels, this whole box here is full of wheels that have been flipped back and forth. Well, I wouldn't say box, but tray. And this wheel started out just like this one. And so you can see a good ½ inch, 5/8 inch is gone. And this was an offset wheel, but because I run a top mount deck here on my downhill board, when I flip the wheel, I still have plenty of clearance. And honestly, it doesn't matter how I flip the wheels. After I do a couple runs, I can't even notice that I've had the offset flip the opposite way, with some wheels being, for instance, the decals on the outside. I will rotate the wheels to make sure I'm wearing them down even. So even when I flip them and I've got the outside in and this wheel standard, it doesn't really make a difference as far as for me to be able to slide. So don't worry about that. Okay, so I've talked about what wheel will fit. I talked a little bit about what size. I've talked about center set, offset, side set, where the bearings sit. Another thing I can talk about briefly is the edges. Like, I don't have any conical wheels, but for skate park, that's when it's a straight edge here. This is more like a bevel edge, a rounded edge. But on a conical, it's a straight edge, and that's for easier transition onto the coping. But since I don't do that style of skateboarding, but I just thought I'd mention that the rounded edges make it easier for longboarding. The rounder edges make it easier to slide. Really, for longboard, there isn't a conical, so I probably shouldn't even have mentioned that. But the straighter edges, like say these Seismics, 77 millimeters, see how it's got a straight edge, make it a little bit, give you a little bit more grip. It takes a little bit more finesse to push the wheel out than, like, say, a rounded edge. I like square edge. You can tell by my selection right here. I guess these orangutan durians have a round edge. Now, mind you, there are exceptions to the rule on durometers. These ADAs are from orangutan, are sugary. I will mention with the orangutans on their Happy Thane formula that when the temperature gets above 75 degrees, just be aware that they're going to feel icy. The hotter it gets, the icier it gets. And icy, best described for me, is like if you're running on land and you jump off into the ice, you know, you take a leap from the bank, and you have to finesse yourself to keep your balance. But a snow, you know, if the surface was snowy, you would have some traction to basically control your slide. Icy, you gotta really, you need to have some experience behind you. Anyway, I got off on a tangent about snowy and icy, but out of the box, the orangutans are nice if it's 75 to 65, 60 degrees. We haven't really talked about stone ground, so let's move on to what is stone ground. Stone ground is when they rough the surface up out of the factory. Now the thing about stone ground is, my experience has been that they wear out a little bit sooner. So you want to, consider that in your purchase. But they work great out of the box. Like my favorite wheel, these metal mothers, they take a few runs. I spend a half hour, 45 minutes breaking the wheel in before I get into the zone. And if I was to try to, ride my style right on the get-go, they would spit me off the board. So the glaze finish, that's going to take a while to break in. So if you get a wheel and you're like, dang, this doesn't work, why can't I push it out? Well, obviously if you're just starting, you need to break the wheels in. The remembers come stone ground, orangutans, rider approved designs, RAD, RADs, they have a lot of wheels that come out of the box, stone ground. Anyway, just every manufacturer will have kind of a recommendation, and even like Sector 9, they have their butter balls. These are the old school butter balls. I wouldn't say old school. I mean, just a few years back, they were selling a lot of these. I never liked them because I wasn't good enough to roll with them. I'll just say that, because when I broke into slide, they kind of did what they wanted to do, and every time it was a little different. So I, for me, I like, again, I experimented, and that's what you got to do. It's a journey. You try a lot of different wheels, and then you find your sweet wheel. Another thing I think I've left out about width is that the wider the wheel is, the more grip you have. So if you're a beginner, it's good to get a narrower wheel to be able to break out and slide. So if you get a narrow wheel, see, these are rounded edges with a 78/8
Durometer with really a
patch.
narrow
Again,
contact patch of like 45 millimeters.
65, a little bit smaller. They'll break out to slide at a slower speed. Were my favorite. And the one thing about Sector 9, they made these skittle wheels, and they came in 70, but again, the contact patch, the area that's on the surface of the ground, wasn't too wide, and I really enjoyed these Skittles wheels. So even though I didn't like their butterballs at all, even though they're a lot of their formulas, because I ride the streets, rough streets, they would chunk out. They were not my favorites, but for other purposes, for just cruising or whatnot, every wheel has a kind of niche, its own benefit. Personally, I just have my opinion because I've tried a lot of wheels, and some have disappointed and some have really delivered. Okay. Alright, so just let me try to wrap this up. I know this video is kind of dragging on. Sometimes at the swap meet you can score. I scored a bunch of these aerial wheels. I didn't know what the heck I was buying, but actually trying them, they were these street surfers were awesome. They were fast. Once they broke in, they got the glaze off. They lasted a long time. They ripped on the road, but I would actually be remiss, I would regret it if I didn't say that if you ever run into these Palisades sliders,
Palisades 70s,
70mm, they were at the swap meet for a long time. These are awesome wheels. I mentioned swap meet because no one pays me. I sold boards for a few years. I don't do that anymore. I just did it to get inventory so I could test stuff. I'm past that now. So no one's paying me to make this video, and I don't want to slam any company. I'm saying, you gotta see what works best for you. My favorite for distance are the Seismic with the DEFCON formula. It's a cross between a sliding wheel, and they have a Black Ops formula, which is more grip formula. And on top of the durometer, you know, the urethane, everyone has their chemical mixture for their specific properties and for their testing, whatnot. So I'm really wanting to be clear that I'm just giving you a guideline. And honestly, like, it was just really a blessing for me to find the Bones, Rough Riders, ATF, all-terrain formula at the skate park now, for numerous reasons I stated earlier in the video. And so my biggest thing is just recommending you go out there, you ride different wheels, you check things out, but with a little bit of information, you can kind of break it down to what you might want to try, you know, and ride your friends' boards if you can, things like that. I mean, you know, some companies make decks real good, but their wheels are just kind of, you know, some wheels that just didn't do it for me were these, for me personally, were these Velos. They were super slow. Same thing with these Atobis, super slow. These Sims, they were made for only park, so when I rode them on the street, they chunked out. Arbors, they were okay. Divine, they were okay. Again, these special LDP wheels from Road Rider were tremendously slow. Churchill made some wheels for to raise money for cancer. God bless that effort. These are some old Peds. Anyway, I mean, I could go through all these, you know, some Fat Deans, some stereo wheels, you know, all kinds of wheels. Again, find the wheels that fit your board, or consider upgrading your deck to run a wheel that works better for you. I have some videos about what deck to choose. You can look on my channel for that. A general rule, my favorite wheel for sliding all day long are 70mm wheels. I'll go up to 72, but start at 74, 76. The bigger wheel is just, it just wants to do what it wants to do more. And since, you know, I am 59 years old, so I'm a control. I love control, and the 78A Duros, with the exception of, like, say, Orangutan and some other brands here and there, give me resistance in the slides, so it, you know, I can feel the road, and I want to pull it back. I don't want to just break loose and be like, whoa, that's not my deal. And I get to make that choice as well as you. So the bigger wheels for downhill, you can go 70, 72, 74, 76. The biggest wheel I see for guys that just haul is 76. But I've seen for certain courses the Kegel 80s. And the same thing with these Abic 11. This is their reflex formula. They have a classic formula. Not my favorite because they don't work for my ability, but other people love them. Yeah, so that's kind of, again, these Venoms 76 Mach 1s, those wheels at a 76, if you're not, you know, I would say that would be a wheel for an experienced person, longboarder that's just mocking, wants to get some MPHs. And so remember, get the wheels that fit your board, pick a size that works for your ability. You know, a smaller wheel, a 65mm wheel, works great for learning because you can slide at a slower speed. Choose between offset, center set, side set, you know, depending on what you can get away with. The farther the wheels go from the center of the board, the more control you have on your deck. But remember, at a certain point, if you're sliding a lot, you'll have to flip the wheels, and at that point, I hope you have the clearance to allow that. And a top mount deck, where the trucks are underneath the deck, generally have more clearance, and so you have more choices of wheels, but also the deck is higher, so that if you do distance, you know, it's harder. when you do distance, you want a deck that's lower. Anyway, I could go on and on, but I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of where to start. Because that's probably the hardest thing, is when you're just getting going in longboarding, you're just kicking out a ton of cash and you don't know really where you should spend your cash. And some people, you know, get stuck with a certain product and it holds back their progression. And so my encouragement to you is take a little bit of this knowledge, what works, what you can understand, and find what works great for you. Oh, the Dregs metal mothers, they have an aluminum hub. Be careful for aluminum hub wheels because only certain bearings will work in them. If you don't have a high grade bearing, you'll get a chatter in the wheel, you'll hate it. I found, you know, like I got some halos that work. I have numerous Reds bearings have worked well in my metal mother. So that's another thing is, you know, but the aluminum hubs isn't very popular. I don't see a lot of that anymore. And just finishing up, if you get a wheel and you spin it and it wobbles, don't accept it. Like, your wheel, when you spin it, should roll smooth. I've already got some wear on this wheel. I'm starting to cone it. But you can see the wheel doesn't wobble. And if you're spending 40, 50, 60 bucks on a set of wheels, they should roll smooth. And they might fight you on it, but trust me, don't accept it. Alright, thanks again for watching this video. Again, I am a preacher for JesusRulesMinistry.com, but it's on the down low. And I don't, you know, I'm available for those that have questions about Jesus Christ. But that's a personal decision. I just make myself available to those who want to talk about it. And JesusRulesMinistry.com has a scripture guide. It's free. And that's it for now. Bam, I'm out of here. God bless you. Thanks for tuning in. And I hope this video was had some information for you.